So welcome to another video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today we're taking a look at a new game called Land and Freedom from Blue Panther, LLC. Now, Blue Panther are a wargame publisher. They do all the print-on-demand games for companies like Hollandspiel and Catastrophe Games, White Dog Games, and a few others. But this is their first release that's them.
It's not their first.
Their first in a while.
In a while.
Yes. Yeah. It's been a few years because they've been very busy
years,
doing that. But, so if you're new to wargaming, Blue Panther had done some of their own designs in games a while back, but they're kind of getting back into that space now. They have the capacity to do so. So it's pretty neat, and they have a couple other games in the works coming soon as well, which is pretty exciting. But Land and Freedom, this is a, 1 to 3 player game that covers the Spanish Revolution and the Spanish Civil War. We have played this 3-player a couple times.
We haven't played it solo, and I would like to try.
Haven't done the solo, haven't done it 2-player, so just
can we do it 2-player and then use the solo, like the bot for the third faction?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that's how you do it 2-player.
That might be something I would be interested in doing.
Yes. So just know that our comments come from a 3-player perspective. That's what we've done. I have heard that the solo is good. I've seen people on social media doing that, so take that for what you will.
Well, I will say this. I think the game and its mechanics lends itself well to being that solo concept, because I could see how, the bot has certain things they would want to do.
Yeah.
And they could do this, but they also need to make priorities about cleaning off the fronts. I think it would work well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very easy to see that. So this is a game where each of you take the role of one of the factions. And so you have an anarchist player, a communist player, and a moderate player, and you're all fighting against the fascists. So you play all as kind of a different faction within the Republicans, and this is a semi-cooperative game.
Yeah.
So we're all trying to defeat the fascists, but then one of us will have the most glory at the end, and we will have won.
So you lose altogether.
Yes.
Because you didn't focus on this, or somebody comes out on top. If you win the war. If you've won the war, then you draw out of this bag of glory, and you're gonna, see who gets the most. So it's a very interesting dichotomy, right? You're trying to work together, but you're also trying to put yourself in position to win.
Yes.
I think that's the best part of the design.
Yeah.
Frankly.
So this game is designed by a gentleman by the name of Alex Knight. We actually met him in person at WBC. Played a couple games with him.
We played Nicaea with him?
We played Nicaea, and we played The Thing. Affectionate Outpost, if you will. Not a war game. But
a fun game.
It was really good to meet him. He's a really cerebral guy, and seeing his design come to fruition and how robust that it is was really cool to see. So our first play of this was on our way to Basement Con. We played it at Miniature Market's brick and mortar store. And we sat down with a friend of ours who we met there, and we all kind of learned it together. And it was a very interesting experience, because this is a game of you have a little hand of cards, and you're either playing a card for all the events listed on it, and the events are going to contribute to the war effort, or they're going to affect some of these tracks, which are going to get you victory points or do good things for you.
Or get you special abilities that are really important to winning the game and to also putting yourself in position to be the victor.
You're going to kind of play the cards down into a tableau where they might be less good to start with, but that momentum will grow and build as your tableau builds over the course of the game, which can be very, very strong.
And I will say the interesting thing about that tableau is, each card has 3 to 4 different icons on it.
Yes.
So you're building that tableau, and I always feel like I want to focus on 1 or 2 things, but then I also want 1 or 2 other kind of oddball ones, just in case I want to do something that I need to have done.
Yeah.
But it really fuels by having similar icons on the cards that you put down.
The tableau building is like a mini game in and to itself, which is really neat. But overall, you're doing all this kind of card play and taking these actions and affecting these tracks, generally speaking, so that you can, in the 4 boxes that represent the 4 different fronts in Spain, affect the war effort. And so the war effort is just a series of counters that are either positive or negative, and they're only ever positive or negative at any one game state. And so it might start in the negative, which is bad. That means the fascists are going to crush you in that front. And you have to, contribute enough pluses to remove all those negatives and then start building into the positives. But there's all these different checks that you have to go through, and there's only I think it's only 18 plays that you get in the game. Is it 4? Only 12? Because it's 4 per year. And
so it's only 12.
So you don't have your action economy is extremely tight, your resources are typically extremely tight, and then you're also trying to focus on these tracks, 2 of which typically correspond to you as a player. You're trying to get, if you're the communists, the Soviet support up from Russia, and then you're trying to swing the government to a socialist communist government. Or the moderate players doing the opposite. They're trying to get foreign aid from the Western allies and then get a more moderate government. And then the anarchist player is trying to get liberty and collectivization up as far as they can. But, it's the balance of how much do I contribute over there because I'm sacrificing actually contributing to the war effort. And in the first game we played of this, we were futzing around a lot on here.
And got destroyed.
And the war effort collapsed.
Yeah.
And it was a great kind of replay of history. That's pretty much exactly what happened. When things started to go poorly, there was a lot of infighting within the Republican faction, and it all fell apart.
Well, when the ship is sinking, right, the rats don't really care about the other rats. They just want to get off and survive. So that's the same thing here. When it goes bad, it's because you're doing your own thing and not working together.
You weren't doing teamwork well enough.
And it was so interesting because we've played that with 2 different groups, 3-player, and it was really fascinating to see that first game as we were really all 3 new, trying to learn the system. We definitely didn't focus enough here, and we're too, I'm going to say it's selfish, right? Sure. Selfish to get points and things that you need, and we lost. Now, in the second game, we had a significant discussion in the middle of the game.
Because we were doing this, and it was not going to end well for us.
Well, 2 of us were doing this, and one was kind of really focused on this, and I'm like, hey, dude, you're running away with it, so my impetus or even my interest in not losing has now gone out the window.
We were very far behind on the glory track and what was seeded in the bag that it was okay, we should tank the war so that he doesn't win.
Because, once again, you either all lose together or some one individual wins by having the most points. And at that point, it was going towards, he was clearly going to win.
Oh, yeah.
And we're like, well, I've been putting all my effort in here trying to keep the fascists at bay.
And he was taking advantage of us.
Yeah. And we had that conversation, and it flipped, and we did a hell of a job.
Yes.
Really clearing these fronts out.
And we won the war.
We did.
It was a very different outcome.
And he still won by victory point. But,
the bag, the draws at the end was astronomically low odds of things that would happen.
Literally, I think we ended the game. You and I had 6 chits in the bag. You had 5 chits in the bag.
Yeah.
I had 1 or 2 on the thing, and he hit that. All his chits were on the board.
We pulled every single one of his.
Literally every time.
I didn't have a single point in the game.
It was just and that happened the other game too.
Yes, the communists pulled all of his ones.
I had 1 or 2, you had none, and he got 5 or 6. And it's wow.
I've played this game twice, and I've yet to score a single point.
Which is funny. And that's one of the beauties of the design. Yes. This bag of glory, and that's what this red draw bag is called, you are seeding this throughout the game with your faction's marker.
And you're doing that if you control the government.
Yes.
In whichever way that your faction is allowed to control the government.
And early on, I think one of the geniuses of the design, I think Alex did a really good job. The anarchist, it's really difficult to get control.
Yes.
You've got to move both tracks up to 6 or higher. the rest of us, it's really just this one, and it's got to be on my side.
And it's a little swing, and it's really tight. It's in the middle, and it goes back and forth.
So it goes back and forth a lot during the first 2 turns between the communist and the
moderates.
The moderates. And then usually by that mid-second turn, the fascists are starting to gain control of it, and it's hard to get it away from them. So I feel like it really balances itself well. And I actually really like that, because if you play the game the way it's supposed to be played, you're going to be, I think, in it no matter what happens.
Yeah, even though I've yet to score a point in this game, I've never felt that I was out of it.
Well, you had chits in the bag.
And
right?
Not a small number.
Right, and it's just... But that's also the beauty of it. Sometimes the fortunes of war or this kind of political struggle boils down to, oh, you got a break here or there, or something swung your way.
Yeah.
And that's replicated in the chit draw. Oh, I happened to draw my chit. Great, I won. You know,
60 to 90 minutes, so I don't care if I get absolutely hosed by fate in the bag.
If this was a 3 or 4 hour game and it came down to a draw of chits,
about it.
You might not feel that really is a great design.
But that's a lot of time investment to then just get hosed by chance.
But an hour, it's fun because it's really, I use that word dichotomy because it's 2 games in one. You're playing the fronts, but you're also playing your tracks. And it's really fun to kind of play together and see, like when you're third in a round, right? And player number 1 and player number 2 have done a hell of a job, and they've really done some great work over here and cleared those fronts off, and we're going to be okay. At that time, you're like, well, you know what? I'm just going to move the government to my control.
Let me just call up Joseph Stalin and get that Russian aid.
And it's just, that's good design, right?
It's very enjoyable.
It creates an opportunity for some interaction, some teamwork, but some stabbing in the back. And then you have a memory. So that next turn, you know, you were third, you're now first. So good luck, because the guys now that was first is now second, and he can do some things that he wants.
Or the other 2 players are like, well, we're not going to do anything, and we're going to tank this one, and you're like, oh. And that's what this game is so great at, is that this is a 3-player semi-co-op.
Yeah.
There is a lot of talking at the table going on.
I would agree with that.
You know, some of it's like tactical discussions of what you want to do. Some of it is like, you know, poking fun at each other for the stupid things that you've been doing, and like dicking each other over. But then the other part of it is that there's great, within the frame of this game, like moral choices to make of like, how much do I help?
Yep.
And the concept that a game can pose you those questions and for it to have meaningful consequences within the bounds of this is really enjoyable, and it's really fun to wrestle with, like, I know I probably should help more. But also me.
Yep.
And that is, and then it's like, cool, but then like, how much of that do I do? How much can I get away with before there's consequences from my other players?
Well, and
fascinating.
And furthermore, sometimes when you help yourself, you end up getting some of these things that are going to help the group.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, come on, guys. I definitely wanted to do that for us.
I helped us out.
Just for me.
Things like turning these bonuses back on. The teamwork bonus and the morale bonus. You know, those get flipped off from time to time, and
you gotta have those.
You can turn those back on by doing certain things and getting. I moved up for us, guys. Well, never mind. I just took control of the government. But
I spent my hero points to do it.
Yeah, right. So the other cool thing is you've got kind of an economy, right? You've got those hero points. Very important. Very hard to get.
Yes.
And very. You've got to spend them wisely.
Yeah,
if you blow them, you're just going to, that second and third round, you're going to be like, oh crap, I can't do anything now. I really enjoyed those hero points. I really thought that was good. There's a lot to like in this design. I really enjoyed it.
Yes. What I'll do is I'll show you how the game works and how the gameplay is, and then we'll wrap up with a few final thoughts. So here's a look at the map. As you can see, the map itself is here's Spain, and it's very broadly depicted at points in the Spanish Civil War. But really, this is 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes. If you were to think of it like States of Siege, it's 4 tracks. At any point, these will have a positive or a negative value in them. If ever it gets to -10, the front collapses and you lose, and there is permanent defeat in that. If you ever get it to 10, there is a permanent victory in that. And so you can auto lose if you lose Madrid, or if you lose, I think, 2 fronts, you auto lose. By the end of the year 3, you need to have at least 3 of them positive, I think, to win. So you can auto win and lose this, but really you're looking to get to the end, and then whoever's got the most glory, if the war is won, is the winner out of the 3 of you. So it is a cooperative game, but one person will win. There is a bag which has the hidden glory in it, and you start with 1 in it. So this is the communist player, there's an anarchist one, and there's a moderate one in there. And you have these pools of these glory markers that you use mostly for putting in the bag, but also for a couple of other bits and pieces. You use them as mnemonics for adding to fronts in the given turn if you cooperate, things like that. So, so you have a hand of cards in this, and you're going to take turns. There will be 4 rounds in each year, and there will be 3 years. So really, it's not a long game. You're going to have your little hand of cards, and when you play it, you're either going to play for the event, and you just go through these 4 bullet points and do all of those things. That's the event. And there's a little bit of text describing, the person or the event that happened. Or you're going to play it for its operation points, and you're going to play it down to your tableau as you do that. So, there is an element of tableau building in this game. If we look at this little play aid down here, the moderates have the initiative. Draw, discard, you can put your hand down there if you want, but there's a little space for a tableau over here. This is also a very good play aid, as well as being kind of a player mat, so to speak. But when you play for the events, or when you play for the operations, you're going to spend your 2 points to either move a track up that many spaces, or to add that many points to a front, or you could spend 2 to do a number of other things. But the point is that the ops are typically weaker. You have 1 3 card, a couple of 2s, and mostly 1s. But the important part of this is that you're going to then play that to your little tableau down here. Why that's important is because when you play it down to your tableau, the next time you do that, you're going to play this one. I'm going to send 1 op. Great, I'm going to add 1 to the southern front. Well, you don't have both positive and negatives, you just remove one of the negative ones. But you play this down to your tableau as well. And now, if the morale bonus is active, which they can be turned off by events, or you can spend 2 hero points if you happen to have them to turn it back on. If you have the morale bonus, you spent your 1 op to do this thing, but you can also trigger icons that match in your tableau. So we could also ping the collectivization front 1 2 times as well. 1 2 times as well. And when we do that, we get this little bonus on the collectivization track, which is adding another guy to any front that we want. And so, hey, yeah, we got 1 thing out of it. We also went up on this track, which helps us get towards getting these medals, which are really good, and also helps the anarchists get control if both liberty and collectivization are up. But it also gave us a little bonus down here. However, that little bonus is then covered up. You can only ever get them once per game. There's some of these little extra medals and awards you can get for getting to the 10 spot of a track can uncover some of those, so you can bop them twice, or some events do that, but typically you gain each one of these only once. But that's the power in this game. Some of the events are really good, like this is collectivization down 3, government up 2, and draw 2 cards. That is extremely strong. Or it's I can play it down. I'm going to do 2 things, so I can move government twice, but then I can also ping collectivization down 3 spaces. 1 2 3. Now, government up twice and collectivization down 3 is worse than this event. But again, the more I play onto this tableau, the more I might be able to draw an extra couple cards, or I might be able to do lots and lots of things. And as the game progresses, if you build into your tableau and you've got 4 or 5 strong cards down here, your actions can be very, very strong, provided you have enough hero points to make sure that this morale bonus is on. Because you can always pay 2 hero points to turn your morale bonus on. And you have to have the morale bonus to be able to kind of trigger your tableau like that. Otherwise, you're just using the op points only, which is a little bit... is weaker than the events, like straight up. And so the game has a really nice balancing mechanism between, do I play the events or do I play for the long haul and build a very strong tableau, but I've got, my cards are locked down here and they're not in my hands where I can use the events, for example. So there's a nice little bit of decision making there, and I think we saw both in our play, and it does make a big difference. But you're doing that in reaction to this kind of turn. Again, there's 4 turns in a year. This turn's fascist card. So this is, we're going to add 4 enemy guys in Madrid. So all of a sudden, this -2 that it's set up with is now a -6. And again, at -10, you insta-lose that front, and you would insta-lose the game, because Madrid is very important, obviously. Then we're going to add 2 to V. And V, this is N, M, S, and A for the names. V is the one, adding 2 to the ones that is closest to victory. Well, victory in this case is determined by having the largest positive value. None of them do. And so then we would look to the ones that have the highest or the lowest negative value, and that's these. And as such, we can choose. Whenever there's a choice to be made, we can choose, or the initiative player is going to decide, and we're going to put them, we'll put them in the southern front just to say that we did it. But then also, liberty goes down 1. Beep boop. So that's kind of the states of siege. A bunch of bad stuff happens. You have to now combat that in your turn. But then it also lists down here a check that's going to be made. At the end of the turn, once everyone's played a card and taken actions, the Madrid front needs to be at 0 or better. And if it is at 0 or better, then the anarchist player is going to get a hero point. However, if Madrid is at -1 or worse, government is going to go back to the center. That's bad, because the Soviets and the moderates are fighting to get it to either extreme of their side of the track. And when it goes back to the middle, it helps neither of them. And so you're trying to work together to pass this check, but also you're trying to work together so that you're not going to auto-lose on the next card, because the next card might add a bunch more. It doesn't, but it might add a bunch more into Madrid, and you might really lose very quickly. And it's just the year 1 cards. The year 3 cards are awful. Like, you're going to lose very, very quickly on a lot of those. So now I can assess the board, and I'm like, okay, cool. Well, this card's not particularly great, doesn't help me to combat this in any meaningful way. So I might do something like that. Take 2 hero points from any player. That's also not great. Wow, we pulled really not good cards. Move up to 2 attacks from a front to another front. If you control the government, foreign aid +4, if not +3. And so it's, I'm going to chip away at this. The next player is going to chip away at this. And then maybe the last player is like, I'm going to do my own thing. And, you know, to hell with everything. But that's the game, is trying to figure out how much can we get away from this. And so if you start getting all these tableaus together where you've got a bunch of your actions out and listed with their icons, let's say you already have a tableau, I might pop this. I'm going to spend 1 to remove one of these, and if I've got my morale bonus, 1, 2, 3 little helmets, 1, 2, 3. All of a sudden, instead of just having like a 1-op or having events which don't really help, this is a significant inroad into the Madrid front, right? And so if the next player is building in Tableau and can do that, they can do that. But again, some of the events that you have, you really can't pass them up. Any front +3. I mean, that's the same effectively as doing this, but you also turn on a bonus as well. So you might add the teamwork bonus if that had been turned off. Some of the fascist events turn those bonuses off. Let's see if I can find one of those. this one here, right? This turns the teamwork off. This event, cool. +3, let's say we get rid of 3 of those, and, you know, the other player already got rid of 4. So we might get ourselves into the positive, because that's 7 total that we changed. But instead of playing to the tableau, the event was stronger in this instance, and we're going to turn on a bonus, and the teamwork bonus means that if I have played on here as the moderates, and someone else has played, let's say the anarchist played on here, anytime someone else plays on a front that has already been played on, you add an extra guy. And so then the third player, the communist, might be like, okay, cool, well, let's make some headway. The communist plays a card, they're going to add a couple on here as well, and they too will then add an extra one. And that's where these kind of hero tokens are here for the extra mnemonics. Now, if you pass, and then, you know, once everyone's done their turn, you're going to assess that fascist card. Hey, did we do this? Yes, we did. Great. So there's a little bonus. The anarchist player gets a hero token. Cool. That helps the anarchist player. It doesn't really help anyone else, but the punishment was bad for both of the other ones, so they were incentivized to help. But anyone who contributed to this check that was successful also gets hero points. So you dish out these hero points, and the hero points are neat because they're a little currency that you can just spend 2 of these to turn on one of these bonuses that had been turned off. Or you can spend 2 of these to move up foreign aid once outside of your regular action. You know, 3 up here and 4 here. You can spend those as extra actions and things to do to really help you out in a pinch. And those are a really good boon, you know. And you're moving up your tracks. You get little bonuses. If you get to the end, you're going to pick up one of these medals, and you get to choose which one from the available. And on your little play aid, it tells you what they do. And some of them are really strong. Like it's like the play. This one is momentum. You just play another card, so you get to play a whole extra card. That's very, very strong in game turns. Intelligence +1. +1 card when drawing from your deck, and keep +1 in your hand at the end of the year. So you just have a better card draw, basically, and you can carry over more cards. This is +7 hero points for Valor. So they're just really, really good. And then what happens at the end of the year, hey, we completed the year, we did 4 of these fascist cards, and we all had 4 turns. At the end of each turn, whoever has the initiative, which is puts 1 of their tokens into the bag. And so what happens is you're fighting over initiative, and initiative is fought over by whoever controls the government. If this government is on the purple side, the moderates have the initiative, and at the end of every turn, every of these 4 turns, they're going to put a token into the glory bag. If the communists control the government, they will have the initiative and they'll put it in. If the anarchists have both liberty and collectivization at 6 or more, and it's not just one of them, it has to be both of them, there's these little markers on here, then neither of these 2 control it, and the anarchist controls it. And what that's doing is that whoever has initiative is seeding the bag with their chits. And so we're going to, you know, let's say it had gone evenly round, the game starts with 1 each in there. If also, at the end of the turn, if you control the initiative at the end of the year, you put an extra 1 in. So fighting for initiative in that turn 4 is often something that happens. But it's how much do you fight for that, doing all this, neglecting the actual war, right? The infighting is what eventually, in my opinion, lost the Republicans the war. I think they're the Republicans, anyway. Then what happens is at the end of the year, you just reach in and you draw 1 token. Great. At the end of year 2, you're going to draw 2. At the end of year 3, you're going to draw 1 more. And after that, if you succeed, you're going to draw another 5. So seeding the bag by holding initiative and being the controlling kind of power faction is very important. That's how you actually win the game. Yeah, you prevent yourself losing here, but having the most glory in winning is how you win. And so you're desperately trying to combat the fascists, You're trying to do your own thing, but you're doing it so that you can come out on top. You can seed the bag with as much as possible and win. And it was interesting because we had done that. We had seeded the bag immensely. I had put a lot in as the anarchists. And at the end, we drew like 4 communist markers, and the communist player won, or would have won had we not lost. I think we ended up losing. But we just did it for as an exercise. And the bag was like 8 anarchist counters. So like there is luck to it, and it can happen, and it did happen to us. But it's what you're doing mechanically was fun, putting it in there and trying to affect the outcome of the game. So that's how the game works. And what we'll do is we'll wrap up with a few final thoughts. Hello. Love you. So that was a look at the board.
It's really a pretty easy mechanically game to play.
The rules, I think the rule book is 15 pages, but the actual rules are like 4.
Yeah.
And they're incredibly largely spaced. Like, it's not a very dense rule book. The play aids are really good.
Really good. I found it hard our first play. Part of that was because I was unfamiliar with what we were doing, but some of these things look so much alike that I'm like,
that's fair.
Okay, what was I doing? But upon the second play, I'm like, okay, the iconography was very clear to me, and the play aid is very good. I feel like it helps you play the game.
And so this is like the faction played for the anarchists. On the back is the solo bot for the anarchists.
Yeah.
We've not played this, but it looks pretty straightforward, honestly, of like what they would do. So,
well, and it's interesting because you can read their priorities here. It's like add strength to a front. Madrid, if Madrid is -5 or worse. So they're always going to do certain things based on what's going on.
So I'm curious to see how that plays.
Yeah.
But the game itself was really easy to learn. You can play it in a much shorter time if you play it poorly and you lose very quickly, right? But like 60 to 90 minutes if you're going the whole hog at most.
And the way you lose is you've got 4 fronts. If ever any 2 of those fronts have been destroyed by the fascists,
-10,
then you lose the game.
Or if you lose Madrid.
Yeah, right. And it is something, it's funny that when we played, the first round's kind of, it's not easy, but it's not overly difficult, right?
Yeah.
3 or 4 things are going to be put on the track, and you're like, okay, I can clean those off and protect us. Damn, when you get into turn 2 and even turn 3, they're putting 6 to 8 of these markers on, and you're literally a hair's width away from losing every turn.
Yes, I think that is a cautionary tale, because that's how we lost our first game of this. Was we got through the first year, we got through the second year, and I think it was like the first card or the second card in year 3. It was like, add 8 to this front, and we were at -3 already, and like, we just
lost.
Right, it's so easy to do that. And
yes, I mean, 7, 6,
and
6,
and you add
6.
2 or 3 to a different one. So you concentrate on the 7, and then all of a sudden you got to add 8 to this other one. You're like
8.
Yeah,
it's just really brutal. So you've got to prepare for that. You've got to understand that. You got to know that that's coming. And I also think that's a great thematic touch, because you could see the fascists building up, and
the pressure's going on. On.
So it worked out. So you gotta play this game smart. You cannot be stupid about this game and hope that you're gonna win, because you're just not.
And when we played this the second time, I was much more clued in as to what to look for and what to expect. So your first game of this will probably be a train wreck, and that's fine. But like, your second games and third games are gonna be even that much more rewarding, because you've got a much more of a clue about how much is too much, how little is too little. And those kind of nuances really elevated my gaming experience with this the second time we played it as well.
The other thing I really enjoy about, I enjoy any war game that uses cards. And this is in some ways a card-driven game, right? You can use those things for the events that are printed there. When you use them for the printed event, you don't get the 1, right? That's only when you do your tableau.
Yeah.
But some of those events are really dang good. Like remove 5 from one front, and then gain a space on the government track, or get a hero point. I mean, those are very important. And you're going to have think 5 of these at any given time.
Yeah, I think it's basic.
So 5. Making choices about that turn and what's going on, that's the best part about it. I really enjoy that. Oh, I got to do this, but I really need to do this, and trying to make that decision. The Tableau thing, though, I think really makes it for me. And the first time we played, you really got the Tableau aspect down. You were like milling it, and I'm like, damn, I didn't do enough early, so now my Tableau's not that great.
Yes.
And the cool thing about the Tableau is you always keep a couple of cards in it. You might have 4 or 5 cards. You're going to discard a couple of those.
Yeah, you keep 1 the first year, you keep 2 the second year. And so by the time you start year 3, you've already got 2 cards. You can play a third one down. And if you've got those morale bonuses going, you're already kind of hitting the ground running and can do a lot.
4 or 5 things.
And if 3 of you have that going, it's much easier to stay on top of this. And then still have the capacity to
do other
some
things.
Of this other stuff. It's really neat.
Yeah. But I think the choices in this game really are the best part of it. The choices about managing your cards, the choices about helping out or not helping out, the choices of, when do I really go for it? So I'm going to put my, victory points into the bag of glory. Because, if I don't do that, I'm not going to score any victory points. And I even like the random draw. And I didn't like it the first game, but the second game I'm like, okay, it works. It just works.
Right.
And that's great. So I'm glad we've played this several times. We got to talk to the publisher about it. We talked to Alex Knight about it. We have an interview on the blog about it. And
we played this with Steve Jones from Blue Panther Games.
Yeah.
And it was funny because he prints the games, but we taught the game to him because he hadn't played it in a long time. So that was fun to get to teach a publisher their own game.
Right.
And he then beat us at it, which was pretty corny.
Yeah,
Steve.
that was pretty bad, right?
That's quite tacky. No. But it was a really fun time to sit down and play this a couple of times. This has a lot going for it, and a very different style of game from much of the stuff that's out there.
Yeah.
If you're looking for like complexity-wise, this is like States of Siege level of complexity.
Well, it has a lot of elements from Euro style games.
Yes.
Tracks and icons that you're trying to get and crossover. It feels comfortable, I think, to a lot of people.
Yes.
But then it has some really unique tactical depth with your choices and how you do things. I just think it's really well done. If I had a complaint about it, I feel like the cards, some of the size of the icons wasn't great. I felt like it could have been bigger. I did like because I don't know a lot about the Spanish Civil War Revolution.
And I would say that probably a lot of people don't.
But I was reading the stuff as we were playing, and I learned something, But I think some of the graphics could have been bigger. Nice box. I'm glad it has a box. I think the plates are pretty good.
2-inch box, which is good for all the different cards.
The draw bag is like silk. No, it's satin or something. I don't know.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, it's slick. But yeah, I mean, they're good counters. I like the standees. I think they work pretty well. So a good effort by Blue Panther to get back into publishing.
Yeah, I had no idea really what to expect going into this game. And it really kind of like blew my socks off.
Yeah.
I just was going into this so blind, and it ended up being a really good experience the few times we played this. So big thumbs up from me for Land of Freedom.
And how many 3-player war games are out there? There's not a ton.
And then how many 3-player war games that
play in an hour?
Right.
Yeah. Very
probably none. Yeah. So yeah, Land of Freedom from Blue Panther. Go and check this out. Really, really interesting, really fun game. Very different from the kind of stuff that you're probably playing. So check this out if you're interested, but appreciate you very much for tuning in. I've been Alexander from PlayerSaid.com.
And I'm Grant.